Good morning. We're back. It's a rainy day. Every time I restart the live after a couple days of not having a live, I see that it rains. So I don't know if that's a sign or something else. Let's get right into it. We have coffee, but I did something a little different today. I tossed a little bit of hot chocolate in it to make it a sort of ghetto cafe mocha because I am not Starbucks. But I wanted something that was Starbucksy. I don't know. And then the hot take to go along with the hot drink. So I was having a conversation with somebody, a couple of people who've asked me, both from a media perspective and just from the ministry's perspective, if we're considering a ban on social media for people under the age of 15, much like Australia did, much like other bigger countries are doing and looking into. And I'm here to basically say that my thought on social media bans. I just got the TikTok to go, so you're a little late to the game, but we're on the hot take. So I think that, and this is my personal opinion, personal and semi-professional, I guess, and I'll explain why. Awareness is slowly becoming the only way to address and combat the ongoing issues we see among young and older people that are exacerbated by social media and other digital forms of influence. When we were talking about that social media ban in Australia for persons under the age of 15, I think, we said it's nice in theory, but so far the data is kind of signaling that this may not have an actual impact. It's not going to actually impact what we're seeing in young people, and again, older people. I have to make that abundantly clear that it's not just young people that have a toxic relationship with social media. I do believe it's a little too far gone for a ban to have any impact, even on St. Martin. Not only that, how would we ban it? I don't want to be one of those people, but I was there for the advent of social media. We started off with MySpace, High Five, Yahoo Groups, Friendster, Downlink, Black Planet. And it was early days, and we were just, kids with an email address and the aim to explore and learn the World Wide Web. And what truly transformed that social media space was the launch of Facebook in 2004, I believe. Now, when Facebook launched, you needed a .edu email address to even create an account. It was a closed, controlled social space, and everyone on it was at least enrolled in a college or university. So there was some level of, critical thinking skills built into that person already. You would have entire schools petitioning for access to Facebook because it wasn't guaranteed. If you've ever watched The Social Network, which is a sort of dramatization of the development and launch of Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg and his early partners, you'll see that it was really like, oh, we're going to put it on this campus and then that campus. That's really how it went. My own school petitioned for a while, via various means to get access to Facebook. And that is actually still what my Facebook account is under, is my .edu email address. So Facebook itself, when it opened up, it kind of opened itself up to, when it opened up to the masses, I think it's, I don't think, it's been said that they realized the future of marketing lay in unfettered access to data. And where better to collect that data than on a platform where people willingly surrendered it. From there, you got Instagram, you got Twitter, spaces where people populated the internet with almost every waking thought they had. And as someone who has studied marketing, the holy grail used to be the focus group. You put groups of 10 to 15 people in a room and you ask them, do you prefer this coffee in the gold cup or do you prefer, coffee in the white cup? So blind testing of branding and such. And, that's how you would kind of build your data sets to build out your marketing strategy and then hope that, it hits the mark. But social media provided a way to have focus groups of over 1 million people feeding you their thoughts on products, movies, shows, love, etc., just consistently and constantly. Then you get the rise of influencer culture, and YouTube in particular contributed heavily to this. And I actually preferred YouTube in the beginning. Long form videos were the main way to influence people. And we saw this first in cosmetics, and then video games, and then other things. One of my former partners introduced me to Jackie Aina. I knew what a highlighter was, not even wear makeup. And I myself, followed the Rad Brad, Black Hokage, and others in the gaming space who did playthroughs and game reviews in long form content, buying certain games, certain makeup palettes. That's where influencer culture started to take hold. And then it got a little nefarious because then children started being pushed by their parents to review toys on YouTube. And that kicked off with Ryan Toy Reviews, which is now known as Ryan's World. I've never let any young person in my life at any age watch Ryan's World because I found it was the most toxic YouTube career trajectory. Ryan was 3 years old when his parents decided to put him in front of a camera and have him review toys. And then suddenly you could plop your toddler down in front of a screen and have them watch another kid who also spent considerable time in front of a screen, talk about toys. And what was even better, his parents made money off of your toddler's screen time. Once making money off tiny eyeballs and underdeveloped brains became a possibility, became the future, it sort of warped the average young person's perception of viable career options. And then you add in the impact of the considerable amount of screen time we all had during COVID, during early COVID, and you have a recipe that has led us to the literary disaster we see today. But banning something has historically only made people want it more and do it more. So for me, as I said, you have young people who their sole purpose now is to be an influencer, with no real understanding of what it takes to do that. And that's why I always urge them, if that is really what you want to do, look at the early influencers in the world. Look at a Jackie Aina, look at a Rad Brad, look at oh my gosh, like a Black Hokage. I'm thinking of gaming personalities, right? The work that goes into creating, even ask, when you see Rahul on the street, Tracy on the street, stop him and ask him, Joe on the street, stop him and ask him, what does it take to be a content creator? And they are doing this in a time where the tools are even, more advanced and such. It's a lot of time. And what does it require? Fundamentals. You can't be a successful content creator if you don't have the basics still. And that's why I say, like, you can push in, and I said it at the expo, you can fight it or you can meet it where it's at. And that's really what we have to do. Outright ban is not really going to work. What I think we need to focus on, and what I try to focus on in my life, when I am asked these questions in the public, you have to focus on awareness and highlighting the very real detrimental impact of early exposure to screens on the development of young people's brains and their perception of reality. And in later years, the very real negative impact on young adults and adults' perception of reality, their functioning as social creatures in society, and thanks to influencer culture, the way they exercise their right to vote, the manosphere, the trad wife aesthetic. All of this is part of how propaganda works to influence the way you see the world. So if we have adults falling victim to this, because I see some of y'all share things on Facebook and I cackle every day. And I try to keep myself off of it. Facebook has become a cesspool of circular pseudo-intelligence. We can't expect children to be any better. If we have adults struggling to limit their screen time, they're exposed to toxic social media and AI slop. You cannot expect your kids, our students, to march to the beat of a different drum. Leading by example, and in this instance, that means raise awareness, offer cautionary tales, and focus on risk management rather than outright bans, because if you do attempt to do that, it's not going to work out. We see it in the schools. You can't have your device. Okay, how many times do kids get caught on a phone, caught on a tablet? At a certain point, you just kind of have to meet them where they're at and mitigate, the risk as much as possible. And that comes with awareness, basically. So that's my hot take of the day. I want to move on to word of the day. If you're just joining us on this vocabulary building journey, the word of the day, I talk about the word, the definition, and then we see a bit about where it came from. And today's word or words of the day from Merriam-Webster Dictionary is baptism of fire. This is an introductory or initial experience that is a severe ordeal. The newly recruited player, for example, faced a baptism of fire as the team went head to head with their greatest rival. You know, those sports movies where the quarterback gets his knee injured at the start of the big game, and then the second string quarterback, transferred to another school. So you have to go to the third string, and oh my gosh, has he been practicing? That's a baptism of fire. So it was. In a military sense, you can find baptism of fire in, among other texts, a 1907 history of a Massachusetts regiment in the Civil War. So that's some of the earlier appearances of baptism of fire. That night, we camped 16 miles from Baton Rouge, where we remained until the 21st, on which day we received our baptism of fire. Users of that sense, you refer to a soldier's first exposure to enemy fire, as well as those employing the more general sense of an especially difficult initiation. Both actually allude, unknowingly or knowingly, to a biblical passage. I baptize you with water for repentance, but he who is coming after me will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and with fire. And that's Matthew chapter 3, verse 11. And the use of baptism of fire to refer to such a spiritual baptism actually dates back to the early 1600s. Non-biblical metaphorical use for any introductory or initial experience that is a severe ordeal actually started popping up in the mid 1850s. So that's a bit on our word of the day. I like to use that. You can say that, if you get into a new job, for example, I think for me, like, no, I didn't have a baptism of fire when I started at UTS, but anyone who started, my colleague Aldemar started at UTS. Shout out to Aldemar. In spring, in summer 2017, and just a few short months later, a little storm called Hurricane Irma came along. And as the new business developing manager of UTS, he had quite a task ahead of him, especially coming from Curacao, first time ever in a hurricane. And what a baptism of fire a category 5 plus hurricane would be for someone who's never experienced a hurricane. So just wanted to give a little bit of a humorous take on what a baptism of fire, as our word of the day from Merriam-Webster, would mean. In the gaming roundup, not gonna lie, guys, I have not been playing anything really since I finished 007. We do continue to see the increase in gaming peripherals. Yeah. If you're trying to buy a graphics card or even a RAM chip right now, you better start trying to see how you can sell a kidney on the black market or on the legal market. I don't know, how it goes these days. But it's definitely getting very pricey out there. Something I don't know if I touched on this before, but some of the media coverage on my speech at the expo kind of focused. I talked about video games. I always try to incorporate gaming and my love of gaming into my speeches and such. So something that I did want to kind of explain, because when I talk about games, and I think I've mentioned it on live before, I'm not talking about iPad games where you're just matching images and pressing buttons. I'm talking about games that require a controller. That kind of forced us as, kids playing Nintendo or Super Nintendo, depending on when you were born, to even Atari, to kind of work on your critical motor skills. When we talk about how kids can't tie their laces, or how they can't, they lack certain levels of movement and dynamics in their movement. All of that can be facilitated by that connection formed between the brain, the eyes, and the thumbs and the hands. Considering the controllers these days have the right bumpers. So sometimes, people have commented to me on whether my reflexes or whatever, even when I'm typing, all of that comes from these. So when I talk about gaming and I talk about introducing kids responsibly to gaming, I would never recommend that you have 4 or 5 year olds gaming at a point where that's all they do. But 7-year-old sweet spot. You get a little Switch, get them some puzzle games. It will start connecting the dots in some of their motor skills, and that will lead to better physical motor skills, running, walking, jumping, etc. Because I've actually listened to some of the feedback from Stichting Echo and how they've tested movement in starting with the Catholic schools. Kids don't be jumping. They don't jump. They don't run. Some of them can't run, and some of them can't jump. And so that's also part of what I said at the expo. And I'll get into expo a bit later on, where I said, let's try to recognize and remember that children learn best through play. That's how they need to have the opportunity to play. They need to have the opportunity to be outside, to run around, to go, if you will, to tumble down a little hill, a tree, climb a tree, you know. So all of that is part of how they learn. And my general text of my speech, my general gist of my speech was meet them where they are. But we'll get into that later. Into the main updates, short story contest. Submissions are open for the Dame Ruby Butte annual National Short Story Contest. You have until August 21st to submit if you are between the ages of 12 and 14 years old. You Your story has to be between 750 and 3,000 words, of course, on the theme, which is Beats, Bites, and Bacchanal, which challenges students to imagine Carnival in the year 2050, explore how AI and emergent tech can shape the future of St. Martin's most celebrated cultural tradition. I thought I had the email address ready right here, but let me grab it while I continue to, talk randomly and with filler words. But basically, the announcement of the winners is going to take place, of course, on Literacy Day, which is September 8th, which I also think, coincidentally, is the opening of the new, yes, it is, parliamentary year. That always happens on the second Tuesday of September. So we're going to be, waiting for that. And then let me get yes. So you can submit your entry to National Short Story at stmartingov.org. That's St. Martin, SINTMAARTEN gov.org. Again, between the ages of 12 and 14, if you are turning 12 in the month of September, you can still submit your story. Really hoping that we get some good submissions this year. I know it's been a time for summer, but we are hoping to get some good submissions from students. And last year we had some great stories and we had amazing prizes as well. I want to thank again our partners, Bullchans, Class, Antec, and RBC for their contributions towards this short story contest. And next year, of course, it will continue. Next year will be the third year that we're running the story contest. And then we do a review and we see if it's something that the ministry can continue to facilitate moving forward. So once again, Beats, Bites, and Bacchanal, August 21st is your deadline for submission. That's next week, Saturday, I believe. No, next week, Friday. Maybe we stretch it to the Sunday, but you can submit it via the email address and then between 750 and 3,000 words. So looking forward to that. And then next in our general updates, we had the first ever Back to School Expo. I want to thank once again Rude, Extra Tight, for a professional, well-organized event. Even with the short get ready time, it still managed to boast several vendors and a steady flow of attendees. I got to listen on the second panel discussion, which kind of focused on children who feel like their parents don't listen to them and parents who feel like their kids don't listen to them. There was a great discussion on how we often continue these generationally old ideas of children must be seen and not heard, and that children of any age don't have any feelings that should be respected, which is the thing that I've actually heard. Like you'll say, well, a kid will say, I'm super tired, and the parent will be like, well, you gotta be tired about, okay, I'm tired, I'm in school, I'm learning, your brain is compressing every minute. So I was able to touch base with Performance Sports Academy, PSA, Enable Occupational Therapy, CPS, 721 Kids Foundation, and others. I still didn't figure out how WIB perform miracles and open accounts on the spot, because obviously they weren't going to open one for me. But yeah, so with that, I want to congratulate Rude and the team again on a fantastic event. And I think next year with advanced planning, advanced promotion, that steady flow of parents and kids is going to increase. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that and to continue to support and promote this event as minister and as the ministry itself. Then we go on to trust fund updates. The library, as I said, the contract has been signed. I got an update yesterday that I'm allowed to share, which is that mobilization on the site should begin within the coming 2 weeks. Currently, they're doing assessments of neighboring buildings. That's taking place, such as at Sundial. In the event that there's damage incurred during construction, you never know, things can go wrong. And then clearance should be given for on-site mobilization. I am very excited about this, as the library is a project that is near and dear to my heart. The new library is going to be a modern one. It's going to be digital. It will offer spaces for community events, literacy events, and more. This is fantastic news for our partners at the library, especially as we are coming off of the announcement of the satellite library, which is going to be at the Point Blanche prison. I'm really happy that this community hub of reading, writing, the love of storytelling is coming back, and yeah, so super excited. And I think there will be some details on the groundbreaking once that mobilization is pretty much complete. And yeah, looking forward to being able to witness that as one of the more critical Trust Fund projects related to my ministry. With Charles Leopold Bell, we should be getting an update on the finalization of the tender process soon, and then contract awarding should take place. And then as well, residents of Cold Bay can expect to see mobilization happening at Charles Leopold Bell School as well. And on Sister Marie Laurence, if you've driven through Miller Region recently, you'll see the amazing progress that is being made at SML. As a district that I live in, I'm very happy. A district my grandparents lived in, I'm very happy to see the development coming along. Every day I drive by and I'm just looking through the fence like, what's happening? Foundation slabs are being poured, and then after that, it's up, up, up. So excited to see that continue to progress as well. And just congratulations to everybody on us getting getting it together basically. And thank you again to the NRPB. Shout out Janora and the rest of the team for responding well to my aggressive motivation and getting us to this point with these projects. I do want to give an update. I was traveling. One second. I was traveling. I was in the Netherlands. I recently returned from the Netherlands from a work trip that was hosted by the Ministry of Education, Culture and Science, OCW, my counterpart ministry in the Netherlands between The Hague and Amsterdam. It centered around World Pride, which was hosted by the city of Amsterdam for the first time. World Pride features an expansive, vibrant, and dynamic Pride celebration, bringing together LGBTQ plus persons and allies of all backgrounds. The key feature is the World Pride Human Rights Conference, which lasts 3 days and features panel discussions, networking opportunities, workshops across a variety of topic threads. There was a discussion, for example, with Jason Jones, who's currently leading the charge for decriminalization in Trinidad and in other, primarily in Trinidad. I think that case is now the Privy Council. There were workshops on, leadership in these spaces, company responsibility in these spaces, social responsibility. The Rights Conference lasts about 3 days, as I mentioned. There was also a discussion with OCW, my counterpart ministry, on their key focus topic for this year, which is LGBTQ plus safety, particularly when it comes to young people. This is a challenge in many education systems, and it continues to highlight many issues with youth development and insecurity. When your everyday safety is threatened for something that's nobody's business, it can be tough to focus on any academic or extracurricular pursuit, And I want to make a point as well to state that, it's not just from what OCW has shared and what I myself have shared and heard. It is not simply actual LGBTQ plus youth that are experiencing bullying and threats to their safety every day. It is also heterosexual kids who don't identify as anything. And that's what happens when, person's perception of a reality overpowers their common sense. They tend to zero in on something, or he looks a little gay, he looks a little this. And then the bullying starts, and then you never know what that could lead to. So that's part of what that trip was about. In addition to World Pride's conference, I had the honor of welcoming the new batch of students to the Netherlands. They arrived on August 3rd, bright and early in the morning. Following their arrival, my cabinet member, Esmeralda Sutton, joined them for the requisite workshops and guidance council sessions. And I have to commend the guidance council program. It has evolved and grown from what it first started out as, and that's been very great and positive to see. So, I feel more confident each time with the hands that we're leaving our students in. So, and then ahead of the conference, I had a meeting with Minister Plenipotentiary Gracita Arundel. We talked a bit about certain support that she wants to include in her cabinet for our students and the diaspora, the wider St. Martin diaspora in the Netherlands, which I definitely support. and was very happy to see. I do see someone on the TikTok live asking about hair in school. I've given an update on that. That legal review, which is the last update I gave, should be completed by now, and then the law continues in the trajectory, which is the education supervision law, in its legislative trajectory until it gets to Parliament. So we're still on target with that. So looking forward to having that continue on its path, and then when it gets to Parliament, we see what Parliament says. So yeah, that covers my trip to the Netherlands. I also have to say that we discussed a bit. We discussed a bit about. I lost my train of thought. Yes. So with OCWA, we talked about not just LGBTQ plus youth safety, but in general discrimination and how all forms of it is detrimental to youth development and to educational pursuits in our respective systems, so to speak. Updates on Parliament. The public handling of Budget 2026 should commence next week. Central Committee questions have been answered, at least for my ministry. We submitted. That report will then be sent to Parliament. Once that report has been sent, I plan from MECYS to publish all 600 pages, I think, of answers for the public's perusal. I chose to do this because I think, there was no physical Central Committee meeting, and I believe it's important still that the public read the questions received and the answers provided, considering the volume received, so that you're on target and you're, ready for the public meeting handling, which is supposed to start hopefully next week. Then I did that update already on the expo. For sports, AA baseball kicked off on Sunday. I was in two places on Sunday. I was quite literally the Flash. I went from the expo to Little League Stadium for AA baseball, and that was good to open up that season, that tournament. I was happy to be present. Congratulations to Omar as well for being recognized for all his contributions. That's Omar Williams, my former controller here at MECYS, for his contributions to baseball and his very long career in baseball. Actually, I even learned some things that I didn't know that he'd done in his time playing the sport. And I'm happy, as he said himself, that it's happy to be able to be here and to contribute to the sport by not just playing, but also, serving as a coach, bringing up that younger generation in our baseball development. And then basketball season is also coming up. I believe PSA posted there. I think next up is the high school. Is it the high school league? Yeah, I believe so. So that's going to be happening, and then looking forward to that. As somebody who used to play basketball and enjoyed. Yeah, so the high school basketball league kicks off September 1st to October 17th. We're going to have the Paradise Showdown as well in basketball coming up. And I have an update on Sports Auditorium a little later on. Don't worry, I know exactly the questions that are gonna be asked. Then we have every Monday and Tuesday. What's still going on? Which I've gone like once, but it's because I don't want to go myself, and my cabinet does be abandoning me sometimes. So there's NSI's activation walk run event at the Roundup Sports Complex. So the community is invited to join in. You can get started with some stretching, and then you can walk or run your way around the track at Roundup Sports Complex, and then do a little wind down stretch at the end to end off. So don't forget that is happening Mondays and Thursdays, I think, at 6 p.m. And I still, the first time I went, it was really fun. I don't run unless there is a goal, an objective. So there's a ball that has to go in a hoop. But shout out to everyone who runs for the sake of running. I salute you. Moving on to some updates in culture. So not necessarily on our side. I do want to remind the public that this year, St. Martin Day is being organized by the Collectivité of St. Martin. I'm very interested to see what our neighbors to the north have in store for us. And I encourage everyone to, keep an eye out for what they announce, and to also just remember to mark, St. Martin Day in your own way as you would like. I also want to say that I commend the initiative of my counterpart in culture, Miss Valerie Damaso, and their pursuits for establishing a national flag that they can then use alongside the existing tricolors of France. The French side, as you know, does not have an actual flag. They some have been using the unity flag following that MOU as their national flag, but that was never the intention. So this initiative is actually in line with their continued efforts towards nation building, as well as regional and international recognition efforts. I'm sure for many of the persons who may remember 1985, when our own flag, the St. flag, was first hoisted following its approval and adoption by the Island Council of St. Martin. This is a similar trajectory that they're undergoing now. Currently, the graphic design contest is open, and I think it runs until end of September 2026, with official adoption of the winning design planned by the collectivity for December 2026. And so again, I wish Ms. Damaso and the Territorial Council much success with this endeavor, and congratulations in advance for the development of this, national symbol of yourself and your culture and heritage. Then who's that? If I play Overwatch, I play Overwatch. Leave me alone. I play Overwatch. I don't know if I had any other questions pop up during the live. Let me check very quickly. YouTube. Let's see. No, okay. So that basically brings us to the closing, which unfortunately I have the dubious pleasure, not a pleasure, of informing you all. As you may know, there is a disturbance in the Atlantic. Last night, when we all um, that were Atlantic, um, now we just have the one main system. As I system in front of it. More concerning as well from the National Hurricane Center's website. That's what I check every day during hurricane season. It's been so nice to log in and check it and see there's no tropical activity in the Atlantic. And then it's like, now you have two. So as of 8 a.m. this morning, in the Central Tropical Atlantic, shower and thunderstorm activity is currently limited in association area of low pressure located southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. Environmental conditions are forecast to become more conducive for development during the next couple of days. And the tropical depression will likely be in the latter half of this week, but the moves westward, west-northwestward across the central tropical Atlantic. Formation chance through 48 hours is 30%, and formation chance through 7 days is 70%. Yesterday morning as well, that there is a wave coming off of West Africa, Cape Verde Islands, Cabo Verde, that this wave may also eat. That's the risk that you have. We are, of course, as you know, in season. The closer we get to my birthday, the more dangerous it gets in the Atlantic. So I would urge everyone to keep an eye out on this, whether it develops in 48 hours, develops in 7 days. It is something that we have to monitor. Already meeting tomorrow we have SG and such, just to see for perspective needs to be done. So I would urge, body to start check your yab. You should have been doing this since June 1st. I'm complacent when every year goes by and there is nothing that happens in the Atlantic, but that's kind of what led to our under preparation in Irma. So my advice is always to make sure to keep checking on your home. Whether or not this forms into a tropical storm or a hurricane system, be wary. Even a tropical wave can do a considerable amount of damage with the amount of wind it could bring. So as well, check for that. You move windows, your go bag, your dog, your cat, whatever. You should always have at least a 2 week supply of water, non food. Passports can go in a waterproof holder, your residency papers, all of those things. And you know something else I want to advise people? In your go bag, in your waterproof packaging, your degrees, diplomas, whatever. I get a lot of requests, a lot of persons coming to us because they lost a high school diploma during Irma. They lost, if you went to the States, for example, I thought once upon a time my one of my degrees was damaged during Irma. I since found it, but if it had been, it's very easy for me to get a reprint of my degree. just have to pay my university. And if I can't get to university, National Student Clearing will always provide a breakdown of my degrees, my transcripts, from American perspective. Netherlands, I don't know what that is. For Canada, I don't know what that is. University of the West Indies, I don't know what that is. Something to keep in mind, I think, because it happened quite a bit since I become minister. That person, I lost XYZ diploma or degree or certificate during Hurricane Katrina, and I ain't got it. And then, here it takes quite some time for them to get back to getting those documents. So that's the Minister of Weather update for today. Monitor this wave. I'll be back next week, and happy to be back. This matters. Thank you for tuning in. And everybody, wish you a pleasant rest of the day. I see the sun is kind of trying to come out. And a pleasant rest of the week. So